Hi guys! Today we'll be recapping a story called The Baby Fairy is a Villain. Please like the video and subscribe to the channel. It helps us a lot. Enjoy! A beautiful enchantress with eyes red as roses and bright blonde hair runs the underworld. Enchantress Cesia, the queen of the underworld. She's known for her cruel nature, but no one can deny her beauty and power. But one day, she disappears without a trace. Where could she have gone? If the answer to that question were to be told, nobody would believe it. Even Cesia herself can't believe it. Cesia, the villainess and center of every scandal, turns into a 5-year-old baby. Before Cesia's disappearance, Hata, Cesia's subordinate and informant, informs her that House Baselin is looking to adopt a child. This sparks her interest. Hata's eyes sparkle, excited to share his plan. They'll disguise themselves as the head of the orphanage and approach Count Baselin. But Cesia disagrees. She has a better plan in mind. She'll turn into a child and get adopted by the Count himself. This is a closer way to sneak into House Baselin and investigate the ones who ruined her life. Revenge is the only drive that keeps her going. She remembers how her mother, who was consumed with madness, died after Cesia was born, leaving her an orphan. Back to her 15th birthday at the orphanage, she happily celebrates with the director and the other kids. Until life takes an unexpected turn. Her fairy power awoke. Hunters lurking within the forest sensed her power, burning the orphanage and everyone in it into flames. Ever since that day, she was always on the run. To survive a cruel world, she must master her powers. It took a while, but she finally had the courage to take advantage of her skills and find who truly ruined her life. After years of pursuit, she discovered her mother had gone mad due to experimentation by a noble family of the Pollen Empire, the Baselin family. The Baselin family is known for their secrecy. The news of the Baselin family adopting a child raises suspicions as they already have 3 sons. Something doesn't sit right. Could they be adopting a child to experiment on them? Cesia turns to Hata with a playful expression, hinting to create a potion that will turn her into a 10-year-old child. He sighs. He has no choice but to comply with his master. Unfortunately, the potion doesn't work as planned as it turns her into a child younger than 10. A month later, Cesia, or Cesia, patiently waits. But being in the orphanage feels like agony. Even her previous orphanage was better than this. Impatient, she throws a tantrum. It's been a month, yet there's still no sign of Count Baselin. Suddenly, the director calls out for the children, saying a noble has arrived. She fixes her dress and hurriedly goes down the stairs. Finally, Count Baselin has arrived. I'm curious to see where this story will go. Cesia is certain that the man hoping to adopt a child is Count Baselin. The director warmly greets and invites him to rest, but he prefers not to waste time. His red, sharp eyes scan the children, but nobody seems to catch his eye. He attempts to leave, but Cesia isn't letting that happen. She isn't letting a month's wait go to waste. She needs to catch his attention by being bold. Only then would she be adopted. She raises a baguette, hoping to catch his attention with a loud shout. She goes in front and firmly demands to be adopted. He asks her, out of all the children, why should he adopt her? She answers that it's because she's cute. That's one way to stand out from the rest. He's radiating an unsettling and murderous aura. Both of their sharp red eyes lock. He asks for her name, and she answers. He mutters that Cesia looks like her, leaving Cesia confused who he's indicating. He lifts her up, and from that moment on, Count Baselin or Kieran will be her father. In the carriage, Kieran gives her a gift, a magic suppressor. Is he really trying to inspect her? She fakes her gratitude and comments on how heavy it is. He takes it off, promising her to give her a better bracelet. He lets Cesia know that if she ever wants something, she shouldn't hesitate to let him know. He holds Cesia's cheeks, radiating an unsettling aura, and tells her he has only one request. There's clearly a hidden purpose behind the adoption, but what is it? Was the person experimenting on fairy power really Kieran after all? Suddenly, the carriage halts. The guards are inspecting for the criminal Cesia. Well, she has been missing for a month, and she has a reputation for disguising herself. Kieran answers them, leaving Cesia surprised that he knows about her. Why would he be interested in knowing someone from the underworld, a place of abandoned people? The guards stand their ground, asking for them to step out of the carriage to confirm their identity. His red eyes sharpen, and another wave of unsettling energy covers the environment. He insists his adoption remains secret, and the guards comply with a dead expression. Did he just use black magic? Cesia's jaw drops when she realizes Baselin is a black mage, strictly forbidden in the Empire. He notices her expression and apologizes. He snaps his fingers, transforming the entire environment instantly. He steps forward, welcoming her to the Baselin Count's estates. A hooded, masked man runs through the dark forest. Suddenly, Halon, the Inquisitor of Heresy from the Holy Empire, chains him down. A group of other guards with white coats appear. Halon asks them about the whereabouts of the witch, but they respond in concern, saying they have no information. Halon tenses, wondering where Cesia went. Back at the Baselin estate, Kieran tucks Cesia to bed. After a week of living with him, he never left her side, always following her through the hallways and bringing her to his office. She knows Kieran is hiding something and she must find out. But how can she? How is she supposed to investigate him if he never leaves her alone? Cesia thinks he's messing with her, convinced he has her all figured out. In a continent where religion holds immense power, dark magic is regulated by Hildert, the great empire of Pollen. They see those who wield powers against God's will as criminals and must be executed. Back in her bed, Kieran sings her a lullaby to help her sleep, but nothing can compare to her mother's lullaby, the only memory she has of her. She slowly drifts to sleep. She's roasting his singing! LOL! The next day, Kieran greets her, carrying her to the balcony. Despite her drowsy eyes, she sees something. Her older brothers have come back home. The eldest Baselin brother is 13 years old, while the twins after him are 11 years old. Kieran invites Cesia to work. Why is he always bringing her along? He sets her gently on top of his table, informing her she'll be alone because he has business to attend to. Finally, she's alone. Suddenly, Belzion Baselin, the eldest son of Count Baselin, enters. He turns to Cesia in a disgusted look, reporting to his father that it's time to head to the Black Forest. Despite the Black Forest being rumored to have strange happenings there, Belzion's castle is located deep in the center of that forest, adding to their mysterious reputation. Before leaving, Kieran says Cesia looks like her. Belzion coldly replies that if Kieran is losing his mind, he shouldn't drag others into it. The atmosphere feels tense, but Kieran assures Cesia. He informs Cesia he'll return the next morning, but before he leaves, Cesia runs up to him, asking who he meant that she looked like. After all, he mentioned it back in the orphanage. Not to mention, he had brought up Cesia back in the carriage. Could adopting Cesia really be a coincidence? If she promises to wait for his return, he will answer her question. Cesia happily waves him goodbye. It's finally time for her investigation. She starts to use her magic, but suddenly a masked man grabs her, clamping his hand over her mouth. Of all the times to be kidnapped, it just has to be now. The man takes her to a cart where his comrade is waiting, wondering what Baselin was thinking when he asked them to kidnap her. Baselin? They take a good look at her, a name on the tip of their tongues. She looks strikingly familiar. The witch, Cesia. I guess they're not entirely worthless, Cesia thinks. Annoyed, she opens her palm and attempts to use her magic, but a voice interrupts. It's Ishul Baselin. He notices what the men are doing and walks past them, catching a glimpse of Cesia. He stares at her, admiring her for her beauty. Suddenly, the men draw out their swords, attempting to kill Cesia and Ishul. But everything is lifted into the air by Ishul before they could kill them. In a blink of an eye, Ishul kills them both, his body covered in blood. Ishul goes back to Cesia, waiting for her to cry. But all she could think of is this family is full of lunatics. I guess the whole family has some skills and tricks up their sleeves then. Moments later, he excitedly brings Cesia to Belzion, complimenting her fearless attitude and beauty. With a disappointed expression, Belzion asks him if he's planning to participate in their father's eccentricities, pointing out that he's also not in his right mind. He turns to Cesia, offering to help her leave the estate, but Cesia refuses, saying their father is nice. Surprised, although their expressions say otherwise, tries to enlighten her about the Count's plan to resurrect the dead. Life and death are divine domains, defying either one requires a tremendous price. Ishul shares his feelings about not wanting to sacrifice the baby. Wait, she's meant to be a sacrifice? Belzion agrees. Suddenly, a chilling wave of energy sweeps through the air, and another voice speaks. It's their father. 15 years ago, Kieran fell in love with a woman he met at the Black Forest. He loved her so dearly that he sought the Emperor's favor to grant her nobility. They had a strong and beautiful marriage with 3 children. Until she passed away. Her identity and the reason for her death were kept hidden. Since her passing, Kieran shut himself inside his estate, never stepping foot in the outside world, until he adopted a child. Kieran walks toward Cesia, pleased to see her getting along with her siblings. He lifts her up and tells her not to listen to her brothers, assuring her she isn't a sacrificial lamb. After all he wants from her is to bring him the Fairy Queen's crown. The Fairy Queen's crown is a sacred relic of the Holy Empire. Hildred, with no information about its powers. It was made by heretical fairies, causing debates whether it should be considered as a sacred relic. After immense debates, it was eventually removed from the list of relics. However, it will be awarded to a child below 5 years old with the highest level of devotion in a prayer gathering. This prayer gathering is called the Little Saints Prayer Gathering. It will be held in a few months. It seems like Kieran is determined to get the relic, but she refuses to pray. Inquisitors and Holy Knights are present in the Holy Empire. If she sees him there, she'll obviously get herself killed. This is just suicide. Wait, that's Halon right there. Did she intentionally run away from him? She backs out and plans to leave the estate. Good thing she has an invisibility flower for situations like this. As she runs through the hallways with a rose in her mouth, a petal falls, catching the attention of Karha Baselin. She escapes to the garden but loses the flower midway. She tries to catch her breath, hiding behind a bush, feeling disappointed for her lost flower. Suddenly, Karha appears out of nowhere. Play it cool, Cesia, play it cool. They greet each other, and Kara asks if the flower he saw is hers. She lies, saying it isn't, but they smell similar. He steps forward and smells Cesia, catching her off guard. Is she gonna get caught so easily? A loud bell catches their attention. Karha carries Cesia as they head to the castle gates. There seems to be a commotion between Kieran and Count Ruden regarding the Emperor's decree. Count Baselin must report to the Imperial Palace along with his newly adopted child. If he refuses, this will be considered treason. His red eyes sharpen, angered by the Emperor's request. Count Ruden demands to depart immediately. Kieran finds His Majesty's impatient discourteous to leave in the middle of the night, especially since he's already disappointed by Cesia's disappearance in the night. This leaves Cesia shocked. He lifts Cesia up, telling her he was about to send the hunting dogs to search for her. He turns his attention to Karha. Was she walking with Karha? Karha lowers his head. In a cold tone, he says his father is acting sentimental towards the baby. Is it because she resembles their mother? Cesia now understands she looks like the late Countess. But a fairy's beauty is crafted from illusions. How can it be possible that she can resemble a human's beauty? Does her resemblance to their mother worth making a fuss about? Kieran has nothing to say. He smirks and tells everyone to prepare to leave for the Imperial Palace. In the Imperial Palace, Kieran and Cesia patiently wait for His Majesty. Through the half-open door, Cesia sees a familiar face. White hair, white clothes, and chains around his body. It's Halon. Halon, the leader of the Inquisition, who's part of the Holy Empire, Hildern. He is capable of wielding the sacred relic, the Chains of Judgment. That explains all the chains around his body. Him and other 13 individuals operate across the continent to uphold order. Back when Cesia was Lacacia, he would always chase her around. He wouldn't recognize her now that she's a baby, right? Suddenly, they lock eyes through the open door. His eyes show his shocked expression and hurriedly walks towards Cesia. He extends his hand, but Kieran stops him, asking what business he has with his little girl. Halon apologizes. I wonder what's the story behind these two characters. Halon informs Kieran that he requested the Emperor to summon both him and his adopted child to verify her identity for the prayer gathering. When Kieran tries to object, he explains and requests for his cooperation. Kieran has no choice but to comply. He turns to Cesia. He tells her to come see him if anything happens. Before he leaves, he leans in closer and whispers, asking her to not make mistakes. He needs the Fairy Queen's crown. The air in the room feels awkward. Trying to avoid eye contact, Cesia wonders what she'll say if he recognizes her. He bends down and points out their striking resemblance to Lacacia. Did she have a lover? He couldn't help but ask, is she Lacacia's daughter? Back when Lacacia was on the run, she encountered Halon, a promising knight apprentice of the Holy Empire. Tired from her life, she asked him to kill her, but he couldn't. Years have passed after separating their ways. They encounter each other again, but get caught in a hunter and hunted relationship. If one must die, it should be at the other's hand. Oh wow, now this just got more interesting! Back in the Imperial Palace, Cesia is in disbelief that he thinks she has time to date despite her on-the-run life. He sits down and asks Cesia questions regarding the prayer gathering. He shifts the topic to Cesia, asking Cesia if her mother had bright red eyes and golden blonde hair. Why is he asking about Cesia again? He begins to unbutton his shirt, leaving Cesia off guard. She moves away from him and covers her eyes. He shows her a rose symbol on his collarbone, asking if Cesia has seen it before. Of course she recognizes. Cesia engraved it on him. Suddenly, the room felt eerie and dark. Kieran arrives looking hysterical upon seeing what Halon is doing. He provokes Halon regarding the witch's crest. Halon asks Kieran about Cesia, but his question only increases his anger. He takes a candlestick and threatens Halon, advising him not to encounter him again. Halon explains that he has been assigned as the guardian knight of the Baselin household for the prayer gathering. Before walking out, he advises him to be careful, as many eyes are watching. Noticing Kieran tense, Cesia calls for his attention, asking where he went. Back at the Emperor's office, he throws his anger at him since Halon is an inquisitor. But he assures Cesia that they had a pleasant conversation. Curious, she asks if she needs to meet the Emperor, but to her disappointment, she doesn't. Before they leave, they explore the Imperial Palace's garden. As they roam around, he asks her about the questions Halon asked. Seeing his down expression, there's obviously no good in telling him the truth about the interrogation. She thinks he's worried that she'll refuse to comply with his request or the Baselin household will fall out of the Empire's favor. She caresses his hair, assuring him she's on his side. Remember, you're there to investigate the fairy experiments. Don't be fooled. His expression sweetened, showing his vulnerability. He wasn't prepared to hear Cesia say something similar. A few days later, the Baselin family is staying in the capital for the time being. Cesia roams around the garden, curious about the late Countess and what things she can find. Suddenly, the twins greet her, asking updates about the prayer gathering. They offer to play if she's bored. Can't they take a hint that she doesn't want to be bothered? But far from the distance, someone is lost in their thoughts. Baselin at the window. Back when their mother was bedridden, their mother requested Baselin to protect his siblings and Baselin. Despite the heavy weight given on his shoulders, he gladly accepts his mother's request. Moments later, the sky turned dark and House Baselin was gloomy. Ishul turns to Baselin, worrying about their mother. Even Karha couldn't find the scent of their mother and the baby inside her. Both at a young age, Baselin couldn't explain the meaning of death to his younger siblings. Above all, he had to take care of his father, whose condition is far worse from what he had expected. Kieran, on the ground in the pouring rain, devastated over his wife's death. Not only did he abandon his responsibilities to the Baselin family. Baselin extends an umbrella to his father, comforting him with the words their mother would want him to hear. His lips tremble and he throws his anger to his father, saying as Count of Baselin and the serpent who rules over the Black Forest, he has duties and responsibilities he shouldn't abandon. Kieran laughs hysterically. He stands up and remembers who he is. As Count of Baselin, reviving the dead should be within his power. That marked the beginning of his madness. Baselin witnessed a person who's intact on the surface but is shattered into bits from within. He witnessed his father lose his mind until he found a way to revive his mother. His plan is just about to begin. He knows that if the world knew about his father's plan to use the sacred relic crown as a sacrifice for dark magic, it would be the end of the Baselin family. Not to mention, his mother wouldn't want innocent children to get executed. He clenches his fist, furious that he can't find a way to stop his father, and frustrated at his siblings on board with his plan. He looks at Cesia from afar, surprised seeing she's adapting better than he expected. Alarmed, Kieran sneaks behind Baselin, asking him what he's staring at. Baselin glares at him, asking him his next move about the prayer gathering. In a stern voice, he tells his father he is committed to protect Baselin like how his father is committed to break the gravest taboos. It's sad to see how Baselin was forced to man up in this situation when he was also grieving the death of his mother. Cesia finds herself getting accustomed to being showered with the twins' affection. They're all enjoying a hearty snack when Baselin summons them out of the blue. It turns out the Count and Countess Ruden have come to educate the newest member of House Baselin, Cesia, an order by the Emperor himself. However, the atmosphere immediately thickens with tension when both the Count and Countess make backhanded comments, mocking the children for lacking a mother's guidance. Listening to this, Karha draws his sword, unable to tolerate their disrespect. Ishul chimes in to the conversation too, holding back no threats. Unexpectedly, Belzion snaps, not at the Count and Countess, but at the twins. He wants them to at least show a little self-preservation for the Baselin name. Ever the diplomat, Belzion apologizes on behalf of his brothers, but Count Ruden has had enough. Coiling with anger, he lashes out at all of them, insulting House Baselin for the noble disgrace they've become. To him, it's all clear. This is what to expect from children without a mother. Why the heck does an adult man have beef with a bunch of children? As the Count storms off, Ishul offers to finish him off, but Belzion only asks him to stop. His voice cracking with despair, almost as if pleading with the twins to get their act together. Without another word, Belzion walks out on them, clearly needing to be away for a while. The insults were truly unwarranted, and it's clear that the humiliation affected Belzion more than they would have thought. The insults were truly unwarranted, and it's clear that the humiliation affected Belzion more than they thought it would. Then again, Cesia can't blame him for feeling that way. After all, she of all people would know how miserable it feels to be on the receiving end of the public snide remarks. Jumping off Ishul's hold, Cesia finds herself running after Belzion, determined to console him. She finds him sulking in a corner, but when she approaches, he immediately wards her off. To Belzion, there's no merit in trying to gain his favor. However, Cesia still offers him a handful of flowers, hoping to make him feel better. The gesture tugs at Belzion's heartstrings, remembering his own mother who used to do the same thing for him. Finally, he lets his tears stream down. All he wants to do is protect the Baselin name, a promise he made his mother when she passed. Adamant, Belzion promises to get Cesia out, unwilling to let her get caught in House Baselin's impending ruin. As he leaves, Cesia finds herself burning with rage, prepared to avenge Belzion from the Count of Ruden. Ooh, I wonder what she's up to! At the Ruden estate, Count Ruden celebrates his newfound wealth. Apparently, carrying out the Emperor's decree had come with rewards, title, and land. Little does he know that he would come to regret his insolence. In the dead of night, Lacasia, still disguised as Cesia, conceals herself with a spell and sneaks into Ruden estate. Inside, she finds him slumbering and decides to exact her revenge. Using her fairy magic, Lacasia drags Count Ruden into her illusion realm, projecting her true form, the infamous witch Lacasia wielding her mighty axe. Without delay, she begins tormenting him, playing tricks in his own mind, unable to escape her illusions in his slumber. The Count begs for mercy, pleading for his life, but Lacasia pays him no mind. She wraps him around her thorn vines, bringing him to his knees. Lunging at him, she swings her axe, ready to deliver the final blow when suddenly she senses an overwhelming surge of power outside her illusion realm. Left with no choice, Lacasia breaks her spell, concealing herself with her magic once more. She scurries to another room, curious to see the source of such power, only to see Kieran Baselin emerge from the shadows. Thanks to her concealment spell, Kieran doesn't notice she's there at all. Instead, he focuses his attention on Count Ruden, snapping him out of the trance he's in. Count Ruden awakes instantly, and seeing Count Kieran Baselin before him, he concludes that he's the culprit behind the illusions. This amuses Kieran, as he hasn't a single clue what Count Ruden is talking about. Such trivial matters aside, Kieran gives him a sly smirk, telling the Count that he's come to fulfill his command, to apologize personally. Suddenly, a dark and ominous aura fills the room, engulfing Count Ruden and rendering him immobile. Without hesitation, Kieran uses his dark magic to bring the Count to his knees, bowing down before Kieran's figure. One by one, he enumerates the offenses the Count has made against House Baselin, from infiltrating his home while he was away, to even mocking his children for growing up without a mother. How could a Count commit such shameful offenses? Slowly, blood seeps out from the Count's head, making him beg for mercy. Unfortunately for him, Kieran isn't in a generous mood tonight. He does, however, offer to end him quickly. He has to hurry back to his daughter's side, after all. Sir, little do you know that your daughter is in the same room. Using his dark magic, Kieran puppets Count Ruden's body, controlling him to hang himself on a noose. Menacingly, Kieran even wills the Count's body to sport a bright smile. From a distance, Lacasia watches in horror as Kieran continues his murderous plot. But considering the squabble at Baselin estate, if Count Ruden is found dead, wouldn't House Baselin be a prime suspect? As much as Lacasia wants to ponder on her thoughts, she has no time to waste. She has to return home before Kieran does. Out of breath, she arrives back at the Baselin estate, and just in time too, because Kieran immediately emerges from behind her. Surely he didn't see her using her fairy powers, right? Cesia sweats nervously, but luckily all Kieran does is embrace his daughter in a tight hug. From his pocket, he produces a bag of cookies, offering it to Cesia. But what distracts Cesia most is that her father reeks of alcohol. He may be drunk, but at least he was still rational enough to cover his tracks in staging Count Ruden's demise. Kieran smiles at how Cesia seems to like the cookies. Cesia, on the other hand, thinks hard about why Kieran is treating her like his real daughter. Even when she wasn't around, he was still proud to call her his daughter. Now, looking at these cookies, she realizes that it's been a while since she felt cared for. Get a hold of yourself, Cesia. He has ulterior motives. Suddenly, Kieran's dark magic engulfs them both, and with a flick of a finger, they're both teleported into Cesia's room. He tucks her to bed and lies down right next to her as he gazes at her with soft eyes. Seeing him like this, Cesia can't help but notice that despite her father being ruthless, he seems to harbor a soft spot for her. His eyes that glint when filled with malice somehow also resembles the same red eyes that stung with tears earlier that day. Belsion's. Meanwhile, Kieran can't stop the melancholy from getting to him. The longer he stares at Cesia, the more he misses his departed wife. When Kieran falls asleep, Cesia muses on everything so far. For some reason, she almost feels as if she were truly part of the Baselin family. However, she doesn't let her sentiments get to her, and soon after, she begins investigating once again. But that same night, in the underworld, her dear friend Hata has just been abducted, and the culprit is none other than the Holy Knight Halon. Cesia raids Kieran's study where nothing particular stands out except a paper sticking out of a book. Looking at its contents sends a chill down her spine. It's a written report all about her, Cesia. The following morning, Cesia doesn't seem to have an appetite. How could she after everything she discovered last night? That report was eerily too detailed. From her birth to her days on the run, even up until her life before transforming into Cesia. It is kinda suspicious. She's at her wit's end trying to figure out why Kieran was investigating her. To make things worse, it's clear that he has some connections in the underworld. Otherwise, he'd never be able to obtain such deep information. From his seat, Kieran reads the newspaper out loud, detailing the news of Count Ruden's passing. Apparently, he suffered a heart attack just last night. Although he says this calmly, he's not fooling anyone, especially Belsion. Slamming his fork on the table, Belsion snaps, confronting his father why he killed the Count. Kieran, unfazed, doesn't even deny it. In fact, he only smirks and expresses his disappointment for having to do the job quietly. If it were up to him, he would have executed the Count in public. A glint of mischief dances in Kieran's eyes as he stares at Belsion. With House Baselin now having a new member, he tells Belsion how willing he is to heed his words now. He wants the Baselin name to make rounds in high society once again. This shocks Belsion, unable to believe that his father has finally gained some sense. Although Belsion doesn't object, he reminds his father to keep his behavior in check. They'll never gain society's favor if he keeps giving in to his bloodlust. Kieran passively agrees, and he tells everyone the first agenda he has in mind: attending the banquet hosted by Duke Imperial. With a new tutor coming and Ashul being in charge of the outfits, he leaves everyone promptly, satisfied at having everything settled in the meantime. As soon as Kieran leaves, Cesia then retreats to her room where she tries to piece everything together. Ultimately, she deduces that Kieran's desire to resurrect his wife and his interest in fairies might be related to the experiments performed on her kind. She becomes angry at herself for being so complacent, but to get to the bottom of everything concerning Kieran, she needs Hata's help. She uses her butterfly to contact him, only to realize she can't get through. This enrages Cesia. Someone probably took him away. The rain was pouring heavily the day Cesia first met Hata. Unconscious, curled up, and drenched in the rain, it was obvious he was left there to die. A failed experiment, no doubt. Normally, she'd mind her own business, but for some reason, her generosity gets the best of her, and soon she finds herself rescuing him and nursing him back to health. A few days later, he finally awakens, but he seems to have no memory of anything. Still indifferent but concerned, Cesia uses her magic to hide his puppy ears and tail. After all, if he wants to survive in the underworld, he shouldn't stand out. She thinks she's shown him enough kindness, so she tells him to be on his way once he's recovered. To her dismay, he asks to stay. The two squabble back and forth, and despite Cesia's firm resolve of kicking him out, he manages to keep following her around. From making her potions to crafting her items, Hata had always been there. Lucasia, or rather Cesia, clenches her fists in anger. In the underworld, it's common knowledge that Hata means a great deal to Lucasia. So who would dare to cross her and lay a hand on Hata? To get to the bottom of this, she needs to transform back to her true form, and to do that, she needs Hata's potion. The only problem is that the potion is in Hata's shop. To her luck, all three of her brothers are going out that same day, leaving her with just enough time to go back to the underworld. Under her concealment spell, Lucasia travels to Hata's shop, only to find it completely wrecked. It's clearly not a robbery. Whoever did this intentionally came for Hata, and Lucasia would make sure not to show them any mercy. First things first, she needs to find the potion. She rummages through the potions rack and finds one labeled as Potion for Baby Fairy. Suddenly, someone enters Hata's shop, and it's not just anyone, it's Karha. Under no circumstances can Lucasia be caught, especially when she's still disguised as Cesia. Pushing her luck, she chugs the potion down and transforms into her original form. What a relief that she drank the right one, though! Immediately, she uses her fairy magic to escape the place, missing the swinging of Karha's sword in a nick of time. Alone, Karha finds the secret room with all the potions, realizing that there's a familiar scent left behind. Inside, his face scrunches with confusion as he finds the empty potion for a certain baby fairy. Finally transformed back into her true form, Lucasia rampages in the underworld, demanding to know who took Hata. Lucasia reflects that around the time she was playing Cesia Baselin, the Holy Knights were scouring the underworld. Without a doubt, she speculates the Holy Knights as Hata's abductors. They're probably trying to lure her out of hiding. Unexpectedly, a man with silver hair stops Lucasia in her tracks. He introduces himself as Jahan, a subordinate of the Master. In fact, he's come to escort her to the Master himself, leaving Lucasia feeling a little unsettled. The Master is the underworld's true ruler. In the beginning, before the underworld was even established, it was a cursed and barren wasteland devoid of people. Over time, outcasts of society began inhabiting the area, and with the intervention of the Master, an economy came into being. The underworld became a black market, a hub where all sorts of dark forces from every continent came to gather. And only the Master was capable of maintaining a sense of order. But the Master rarely intervenes when Lucasia causes a ruckus, so why is he interfering with her rampage now? At first, Lucasia refuses to go with Jahan. After all, finding Hata is her top priority. But when Jahan tells her that the Master knows where she is, she's left with no choice but to cooperate. Jahan leads the way, and Lucasia is amazed by the Master's residence. How rich is he to be able to maintain a lush and green residence in a barren land? Inside, her blood runs cold as she feels the overwhelming power of the Master, even if he's nowhere in sight. When Jahan leaves them alone, their conversation is anything but friendly. The Master, whose tone is sly and haughty, tells her about Hata's situation. He's been taken by a holy knight with a close connection to Lucasia. Initially, she's unsure who he means, but when the Master tells her about the knight possessing her mark at a secret spot on his body, she immediately confirms it's Halon. After a rather hostile exchange, Lucasia leaves and sets out to track Halon. Luckily, with her mark on him, she's easily able to do that. She teleports to where Halon is, only to find herself walking into a trap. Wrapped around a chain of metal thorns is Hata, incapacitated and unmoving. And the mastermind behind such cruelty, Halon, demands answers from Lucasia. He wants to know why she left him that day. Halon, you may be a pretty boy, but I won't forgive you for doing that to Hata. 5 years ago, Lucasia had just awakened her fairy powers and was constantly on a run from hunters. One night, a group of hunters trail after her, and Lucasia knew there was no escaping them. Running into the wilderness, she stumbles on a clearing where she meets a boy with white locks and blue orbs. His features are almost ethereal under the moonlight. It's a young Halon. Battered and wounded, Lucasia begs the boy to end her. She would rather die by his hands than be defiled by hunters. The next thing she knew, she's waking up in a warm bed with all her wounds treated. Reflecting on her life, Lucasia breaks down in tears, unable to bear the cruelty of her experiences. Just then, a sound by the door alerts her. Could it be the assassins and hunters? Bracing herself for the worst, she arms herself with a chess piece, ready to attack. When the boy struts in bringing her a meal, she still doesn't let her guard down, questioning if he's with the hunters. He answers her with an immediate no, almost as if bewildered why she'd even ask such a thing. Taking a little piece of bread, he pops it in his mouth, showing her that the food is safe to eat. Although she's hesitant, Lucasia decides to trust him. After all, it's been a while since she had a hot meal. Would it really be alright to trust someone one more time? Before long, she devours the entire meal. Bowing her head in humiliation, she tries to hide her face from him. Surprisingly, he makes no comment about it. Instead, he redirects their attention to the full moon, beckoning her to admire it. For the first time, Lucasia allows herself to savor such a sight. It's beautiful. Breaking the silence between them, Lucasia thanks the boy for saving her, her eyes conveying the depth of her gratitude. The boy is flustered, but he reassures her anyway. He has no intention of harming her. After all, he's an apprentice knight of the Holy Empire. Although he probably meant to hint that he'd protect her, his statement only makes Lucasia's blood run cold. The Holy Empire shows no mercy for mystical beings like herself, a fairy. They execute them with no remorse. Could it be that the boy still hasn't realized she's a fairy? Trembling, she realizes she needs to escape as soon as possible. If the Holy Empire finds her, she might just suffer a fate far worse than everything she's endured. If it isn't one of my favorite tropes, forbidden love. As much as Lucasia wants to escape already, her body is in no condition to do anything. She barely has any strength. Maybe it's okay to rest for now, she thinks. She'll escape tomorrow for sure. But as if the universe was taunting her, her plans are ruined when she comes down with a high fever. To top it all off, she's left under his care. Finally, when she gathers enough strength, she musters up the courage to ask why he's helping her. To her surprise, he doesn't give her an answer. Instead, he tells her his name, Halon. At first, she's reluctant to give him her name, but just when she's about to introduce herself, the hunters manage to infiltrate the village they're staying in. Despite Halon reassuring her, Lucasia still hangs her head low. She has nothing to give him in exchange for his help. Nonchalantly, Halon pulls out his sword, telling her that he needs nothing from her. He asks that she wait for him while he deals with the hunters. But before Lucasia could say anything, he's already out the door, sword in hand and ready to attack. Lucasia feels nothing but gratitude for Halon, but given their circumstances, there's no way they can live peacefully. He's someone who'll eventually become a holy knight, and she, a fairy, would become his prey. With one last look at the room where she was cared for, a melancholic expression passes through Lucasia's face. She sincerely hopes that he stays safe. But without wasting another minute, Lucasia makes her escape. Years later, Lucasia finally learns to harness her power's full potential. A beautiful yet cruel fairy, the world deemed her as a witch. Yet from time to time, she finds herself wondering about Halon. But as if fate had played its tricks on them, the two finally reunited in the most unpleasant of ways, as enemies trying to put an end to the other. And now, at present, once again, under the full moon, they stand face to face. Seeing how Lucasia refuses to answer his question, Halon dares to ask her another. Why did she disappear all of a sudden lately? The way he questions her, he sounds genuinely concerned and hurt that she just disappeared. His question catches her off guard, but just when she's about to give him a piece of her mind, she feels her body morphing into a child once more. Lucasia clutches her mouth, horrified about what's going to happen. If she doesn't get out in time, Halon will see her transform into Cesia. Unwilling to bear the humiliation, Lucasia uses all her remaining strength to conjure up her illusion realm and barrier. Within her barrier, she recuperates while projecting her adult form in front of Halon. She has no time to waste, so she strikes a deal Halon can hardly refuse. She'll return the holy relic he's been searching for, but in exchange, they'll have to go their separate ways moving forward. The holy relic in question is the Spear of Lubius, an item Lucasia obtained after gaining victory over the captain of the Holy Knights. The Holy King and Knights have done everything to retrieve the relic, but each time they come back empty-handed. After all, it was hidden in a place they could never reach, Lucasia's own barrier. Lucasia, mischief dancing in her eyes, tantalizes Halon, bidding him to take the spear. If he refuses, she'll shatter it into pieces, a scenario that would stir great trouble, even for Halon himself. Instead of jumping at the opportunity, Halon finds himself wondering about Lucasia's sudden change of heart. It's unlike her to resolve things so easily. Stricken with worry, he approaches her, inquiring if there's anything or anyone bothering her. He tilts her chin up, forcing her to meet his gaze, as he reminds her that he's the only one who should be after her. Lucasia looks away, a faint blush creeping under her cheeks. When she asks that he will leave her alone, Halon's face turns grim, and he can't help but ask her about something that leaves Lucasia dumbfounded. He thinks Lucasia wanting solace is related to her secret child. He said it with so much conviction, too! Although Lacacia would love to clear up that misunderstanding, she doesn't have the luxury of time right now. She shoves the spear into his hands and uses her powers to summon her magical butterflies. When her magic overpowers him, she and Hata leave, paying no mind to Halon calling out after Lacacia. The following day, Cesia and the twins go on a picnic at the Baselin townhouse grounds. She reflects on recent events, wondering why she turned back into a child and why Karha was in the underworld yesterday. However, her thoughts are interrupted when a cute puppy emerges from the bushes. All color drains from Cesia's face, knowing full well that the puppy is none other than Hata. Even worse, the twins want to keep the puppy. Later on, the twins tell Kieran all about the cute puppy. In their words, Cesia wants to keep it, prompting Kieran to agree, much to Cesia's dismay. Inside her room, she collects her thoughts. With Hata here with her, she might as well just consider it a blessing. Just then, Hata, in his puppy form, inquires about Cesia's preparations for the upcoming banquet. Come to think of it, the banquet is fast approaching, but she still hasn't been given her outfit. This makes her curious if something's wrong. Just as she suspected, there is something wrong. Their outfits have been sabotaged. As the family dines, Ishul makes no effort to hide his frustrations, expressing how the clothes that arrived are nothing like the samples they were shown. To make matters worse, the clothes would just humiliate them, especially Cesia. Karha then offers a remedy. He suggests they just accessorize the clothes they have on hand. In fact, he knows just the right place to obtain such accessories: Hata's hat shop in the underworld. This makes Cesia choke on her drink. Her curiosity is even more piqued, wondering just what connection the Baselins have with the underworld. After their meal, Ishul shows Cesia the clothes. Just one look at them is enough to make her understand why Ishul is upset. The clothes are plain and ordinary, almost something commoners would wear. Approaching Ishul, Cesia innocently asks why he loves to dress up. Although he smiles while answering her, his eyes look a bit melancholic as he admits the real reason. It's because he didn't want to look motherless. Back when their mother passed away, Ishul barely understood the concept of death. He wondered why their mother just vanished without a trace, so he made it a mission to find her despite everyone stopping him. With Karha's help, the twins searched tirelessly for their mother, but one day, Ishul heard nobles gossiping about them, taunting them for looking like kids without a mother. I swear, those people are cruel! That day, something inside Ishul broke, and as he let himself crumble down in front of his own twin, he vowed to never allow people to degrade the Baselin name ever again. And now that Cesia is a Baselin, Ishul extends that same promise to her. With a smile, he reassures Cesia, expressing how he'll handle everything. That night, Cesia decides to play a hand in the matter, ordering Hata to contact Mia's boutique. With a mischievous glint in her eyes, she hints that it's about time they reopen Hata's hat shop for a while. The following afternoon, as the sun sets, the twins are about to head out to the underworld. Unexpectedly, Cesia wants to come with them. Of course, they decline at first. It's too dangerous for Cesia to be there. But after much convincing, not to mention Cesia's puppy eyes and pout, they eventually give in. Arriving at Hata's shop, the silence throws them off, thinking the place is closed. Just then, Hata, now in his human form, appears before them. But just as Hata greets them, Karha finds his scent and appearance strangely familiar. Out loud, he remarks that Hata looks like their dog back at home. Although Ishul agrees, he still reprimands his twin, urging him to show some manners. Clearing his throat, Ishul inquires about some hats. He needs hats suitable for gentlemen and a baby. Luckily, Hata's got them covered, and he shows them the wide range of options he has in stock. With a fire burning in Ishul's eyes, he immediately dresses Cesia up, making her try on everything. Seeing how everything looks adorable on Cesia, Ishul offers to buy out Hata's entire collection. Just as they finish their transaction, Karha pipes up, inquiring if Hata also makes potions. He tells him about finding a potion for a baby fairy the last time he was there, making Hata sweat nervously. But before the conversation could continue, Ishul interrupts them, telling his twin to stop asking strange questions. Both Hata and Cesia breathe a sigh of relief. That was a close call getting caught! Before the family leaves, Hata inquires if they'd also be interested to look at some clothes, making Ishul's eyes light up. He guides them to Mia's atelier, where Mia, the owner who dresses up as a cat hybrid, greets them. Mia may be weird, but Ishul can't deny that her pieces are exquisite. Convinced that she's capable, Ishul tells her his predicament. He needs some clothes altered within 5 days. It's a bit of a tight deadline, but for some reason, Mia is enthralled. Mia has one request first. She wants to see their faces. The family obliges, and upon seeing such beautiful blonde faces, Mia is absolutely fired up. She reassures them that she'll have their clothes done by the morning of the event. LOL, Mia is such a vibe! With everything settled, the three are about to head home. But just as they leave, Karha immediately leaps into action as a group of thugs surround them. The thugs take an interest in the pretty nobles before them. For sure, they'd sell well in the slave market. Knowing how chaotic the underworld is, an attack like this doesn't surprise Cesia. Looking at the thugs, she believes Karha can take them out single-handedly. From beside her, Ishul orders Karha to handle the men, as if unleashing a deadly weapon upon them. His own twin! Karha is about to eliminate them when all of a sudden, Jahan makes an appearance and stops Karha. Seeing Jahan, the thugs instantly begin apologizing, making their escape. As they leave, Jahan turns to Karha, reminding him that he was told not to cause any trouble. Had it just been him and Ishul, he wouldn't have intervened. But since they brought someone with them, a child of all people, this won't be taken lightly. Cesia looks amused, almost dumbfounded to witness their interaction. Without a doubt, she figures that they're all familiar with each other. It's common knowledge that the master rarely interferes, so why did he send Jahan to a little squabble like this? Racking her brain out, Cesia wonders just how much influence the Baselins have in the underworld. Mid-thought, Cesia and Jahan make eye contact, prompting her to greet him. He returns the gesture, but he notes that it would be in Cesia's best interest if they never cross paths again. After all, meeting someone like Jahan is never a good sign. When you become someone feared, you usually end up alone, and when you do, you start hating yourself. Just like when she was on the run, Cesia knew the feeling all too well. Trying to cheer him up in the littlest of ways, Cesia pulls her cloak down, smiling at Jahan brightly. She expresses how she'd love for them to meet again. She'd even say hi the next time around. For a moment, Jahan's gaze lingers on Cesia's smile, but he doesn't allow himself to indulge in her sunshine for too long. Turning his back, he advises the family to return home immediately. That night, Jahan personally eliminates the thugs from earlier, his thoughts only of Cesia's bright smile. From behind him, a voice chimes in. It's the master. He makes his entrance, broodiness and power exuding from him as he finishes off the slave hunters with a flick of his fingers. He orders Jahan to keep tabs on the witch Cesia, her whereabouts and her every move. And as the moonlight glimmers, it shines on the master's face, revealing his identity as none other than Kieran Baselin. I just had a hunch Kieran and the master are connected. I never expected them to be the same person. Meanwhile, back at the Baselin household, the twins face Belzion's wrath for taking Cesia with them to the underworld, clearly worried about the child's safety. Once more, he reminds them that she's not a Baselin, but when the twins try to argue, he shuts them down. Belzion's statement leaves everyone grim-faced. From the start, Belzion had already made his intentions clear. He was going to send Cesia away. His statement just reminded Cesia that despite everything they've gone through, they were never truly a real family. From wanting to avenge them from Count Ruden to even pulling some strings for their banquet outfits, Cesia realizes her mistake in getting too involved, getting too attached. How foolish is she to have played house for too long? It's the same as when she was an orphan on the run. She never belonged anywhere. Clenching her fists, she berates herself for feeling this way, ultimately reminding herself to stick to her original plan. She has only one goal, to investigate the Baselins. And considering that Belzion would send her away soon, she'd better make it quick. That's right, all she has to do is investigate, then leave. Simple. Once she's done, she can finally return to who she truly was, the witch Cesia. In her room, Cesia sulks, still feeling a bit sad. Just then, a figure materializes from the shadows, Kieran. He notices Cesia visibly upset, figuring it must have something to do with their outing to the underworld and Belzion scolding them. When Cesia still doesn't cheer up, he teleports them to a beautiful rose garden at the Imperial Gardens. Carefully, he places a rose on her ear, beaming at her with joy. Honestly, just like Belzion, he hopes that Cesia avoids a dangerous place like the underworld. Curious, she asks him about the underworld, but quickly takes it back. He has no obligation to answer her anyway. She's not a real Baselin. This catches Kieran off guard, realizing how much Cesia took Belzion's words to heart. To lighten up her mood a bit, he lets her in on a secret about the underworld. He's actually been managing it, caring for people there as he would care for his own daughter. His words send a shiver down Cesia's spine as the pieces all click into place. The report about Cesia and Kieran's study, the twins' familiarity with the underworld, Jahan showing them respect, and the master knowing about her history with Halon? Without a doubt, she figures out that Kieran is the master of the underworld. She's in deep trouble for sure. Kieran could have her head if he finds out that the witch Cesia has been playing as his daughter. Back in her room, Cesia sulks even more about her circumstances. The underworld is the only place she's ever found refuge in. If she crosses Kieran, who just happens to be the master, she'd lose everything. Either way, she figures the master would send her away, so she might as well disappear on her own. Since she plans to leave soon, Cesia makes it a mission to gather as much information as she can. There's only one place she has yet to investigate: the Black Forest. As soon as she and Hata arrive in the Black Forest, they immediately come face to face with a monster, one of the dark forces that stir within the forest. But for some unknown reason, upon seeing Cesia, the monster doesn't attack. Although she finds this strange, Cesia doesn't complain. At least her investigation will go easier without monsters attacking them. Holding her hands close to her chest, she chants a spell, releasing her magical butterflies into the forest. She follows their trail, where she is led to a clearing. Strangely, this clearing doesn't feel like the Black Forest at all. It's lush and green, almost a meadow of flowers surrounded by trees. But at the center of the clearing lies a wooden coffin with a fresh bouquet of roses. It doesn't take long for her to realize that it's where Kieran laid his wife to rest. Suddenly, her butterflies alert her to the trees surrounding the clearing. There seems to be golden etchings within them. But upon reading the inscriptions, her stomach drops and a wave of dread overcomes her. They're records of experiments performed on fairies. The records date back centuries ago, detailing comments and suggestions for further research. This isn't Kieran's doing at all, but rather, it's the Holy Empire's. So much for following God's will! The Holy Empire's a bunch of hypocrites! However, something confuses Cesia. The Holy Empire has always been trying to eradicate fairies and their existence. So why did they experiment on fairies? More so, a holy knight like Halon would have access to all the classified knowledge. If he had known, he wouldn't be the type to allow such things to continue. Piecing the information together, she figures that the experiments must have been done in secret by someone with authority, either a cardinal or the Holy King himself. Cesia is both enraged and saddened at her discovery. But one thing's for sure, the Baselins played no part in the fairies' torment. With that cleared up, there's no reason for her to stay with the Baselins any longer. Instead, she should focus on investigating the Holy Empire. Later that afternoon, Cesia has something to discuss with Baselin. She asks him when she'll be leaving. This catches him off guard, but he answers her promptly. She'll be leaving in 2 days, specifically at dawn. She lowers her gaze, unsure what to make of how soon her departure is. Unexpectedly, Baselin tells her she can take anything she wants before she leaves. Whether it's jewels, money, or even a fortune, all she has to do is name it and he'll give it to her. But what he doesn't expect is for Cesia to just ask to take the puppy with her. This puzzles him, but Cesia only smiles, expressing how grateful she is for everything. Seeing how cheerful Cesia is nearing the end of her time as a Baselin, Baselin still can't comprehend how easily she's just taking all this. Unable to handle it, he snaps, asking why she doesn't feel sadness or anger, or why she isn't begging to stay. It seems like you're more affected by Cesia's departure, Baselin. Once more, Cesia smiles at him, but her eyes express a hint of sadness and longing. It doesn't matter if she wants to stay or not, leaving is the right thing to do. After all, she is used to situations like these. Back when she was an orphan, a family had adopted Cesia, but one small mistake led them to send her back. How would she explain to her teacher that she was sent back? In tears, she couldn't even muster the courage to knock. Unexpectedly, her teacher welcomed her back. No scolding, no questions, just pulled her in for a tight hug as she welcomed her back home. That's right, her teacher and their orphanage was her home. A home burnt by hunters right in front of her own eyes. Cesia snaps herself out of her memories. Although she reassures Baselin that she'll be alright, he still promises to ensure that she lives a comfortable life after she leaves House Baselin. The following day, she gazes out her bedroom window, savoring the sceneries of the beautiful estate one last time. No doubt, she'll miss Karha and Ashul a lot too. As for Kieran, well, it'd be best to avoid him. Finally, the day of her departure arrives. Just as Baselin had said, she gets up at dawn and prepares to leave. Her things are already loaded into the carriage, so the only thing left to do is bid her goodbyes to Baselin, who has come to see her off. But unexpectedly, Baselin tells her that he'll be coming along. Cesia pales upon hearing what Baselin had just said. In fact, what scares her even more is how he has no reservations. He's literally leaving everything behind, ready to let Kieran handle everything from here on out. He informs her that he'll only be staying until the Lesser Saint's prayer starts. He knows how his father will be able to track Cesia down, so he figures if he's with Cesia, she won't get caught so quickly. She ponders his words, realizing they all make sense. To top it all off, she still doesn't know why she turned back into a child despite drinking Hata's potion. Maybe being in Belzion's care isn't so bad after all. The two leave the estate, but a cold sweat breaks out on Cesia's skin as she witnesses Belzion's next move. He blows up the estate with a detonator in his hands. Meanwhile, Kieran and Jahan are busy dealing with assassins when one of his men informs him of the situation back at home. A huge fire had broken out, prompting Kieran and the twins to head back home immediately. Seeing the fire raging, Kieran can only guess this was Belzion's doing. But when the maids inform him that Cesia is nowhere to be seen, he loses his cool. He walks through fire, heading to Cesia's room, but when he realizes his daughter is truly missing, his eyes light up like a madman. This man will do anything in his power just to find his daughter. Elsewhere, Belzion and Cesia stay at an inn at the center of the capital. Later that night, Cesia sees Belzion grasping a sword for the first time. He explains that his sword is one capable of slaying the beasts within the Dark Forest. He explains that managing the Black Forest is the sole responsibility of House Baselin's Serpent Castle. The magic swords they use require a lot of blood, from living things, monsters, and its owner. After 300 days of infusing the blade with blood, it eventually becomes a dark blade, birthing a magical sword. Later, Belzion tucks Cesia into bed. As she sleeps peacefully, he airs out his musings out loud as he pulls Cesia close. Deep down, he really would have wanted Cesia to be his real sister. So guys, what do you think of this story so far? Please subscribe and turn on notifications for updates on this and all our other stories, so you can be the first to find out when they're out. Thank you so much for your support. See you in the next one!